Hi there, Rebecca here with Standing Bear Healing. Today I want to talk about dissociation as it relates to the journey of going through and then coming out and healing from severe trauma. So my first experience of understanding that such a thing existed was when I was in my first year of medical school, and I saw an Oprah Winfrey episode, her show, where she said, she had a guest on who said, that she had just recently uncovered memories of her father raping and then murdering her friend when she was a little girl. And I had never heard of repressed memories before. And in fact, when my father, let me think, it was probably a couple years prior to that, when he had been first convicted. He was convicted twice of molesting his stepdaughter. And the first time, it was kind of funny how everyone came to me and said, so what about you? And I'm like my brothers and my sister and others. And I said, well, what about me? And they go, I remember my younger brother going, so do you remember anything yet? And it was only in retrospect that I kind of caught that yet. And I think he kind of didn't mean to put that on there, but that's what he said. And what I later found out, once I did remember my abuse, was that all three of my siblings had gone to my mother at different times and said, hey, you know, I've been reading up about this incest and sexual abuse stuff, and I think Rebecca, I think Dad got Rebecca too. And so when I first saw that Oprah Winfrey show, that was the first time I realized that something could have happened to me, and that it's possible that I wouldn't remember. And so what happened was, when I saw this, I forget if it was a psychologist or psychiatrist on that show, and she said, oh yeah, when, you know, people have been traumatized pretty severely, they can actually block the memory of it. And next thing I knew, I had fallen to my knees on the carpet in front of the television, and I just grabbed my mouth like that, and I just started sobbing, and I just sobbed and sobbed, and then I mean, I had no way of understanding what that emotion was about. So I just, when I was finished crying, I just got up and went to my desk and continued with my studies. And so then later on, then the memories start to come back. And initially I thought I would have to remember every single incident and heal that incident in order to be free of this trauma. And I learned from my therapist, like, no, you don't have to remember everything, which thank God. I've remembered just like a little sliver of each different type of incident, and enough to just know these were the things that happened to me. And beyond that, vast majority of what happened to me is not consciously remembered. So, and I'm actually pretty grateful for that now. And every once in a great while, I'll have a new flashback come back, but not so much anymore. Now my healing work is more in the spiritual development realm, of me just learning to access my higher self and the Creator, God, and to just deepen that connection and utilize that to in my daily life, and especially in my work. And so dissociation, I tell people it's sort of a sad thing too in my adult life, because I will have a really good time, but if there's enough triggering elements in that scenario, it's like a little Pac-Man, if you're old enough to remember that. Very early, maybe the first video game. It's like a little Pac-Man. This device goes through my brain and just chews up and deletes the memories. And it's not always necessary, but the mechanism got developed, and then it just sort of runs on its own. And so if there's enough elements of the common triggers that told me it was time to check out of my body, then I will check out. And as I'm checking out, it's funny because it's like if I look back on, and it's almost always nighttime when I have these episodes of blocking things out or dissociating. And it actually hasn't happened for a while now, but it's like as I look back on the evening, let's say like once when I was in, I think it was when I was in massage school after I left medical school, and we had a party, and so there was dancing and drinking and, you know, just generally revelry and having fun. But then there was someone who was attracted to me and was getting flirtatious. And so as that went on, my memories of that evening got more and more spotty until like I don't remember the end of the night. And I've always been extremely blessed that when that would happen, I would always be with men that were honorable and respectful. And I remember sometimes being with a man, like I would be so gullible, right? Because I don't know, like a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old inside me would come out, and you know, and he would say, "Oh, follow me back to my apartment. You know, I want to show you this," or you know, we'll go have a drink of that or whatever. And I would go, and then because there's that part of me that is just a little girl and she's trusting and wanting love and attention. And then sometimes, and this was like really early on after remembering, then I would just fall apart in tears. And you know, I think there were like 3 different times that happened, and each time the man took me in his arms and held me and let me cry and told me I was safe with him, that he wasn't going to hurt me. And so those experiences were they weren't easy, but I think they were a significant part of my healing, and realizing that not all men were like the men I grew up around. And so dissociation, sometimes we can't control when it happens, and I think for that reason it's good if you have a safety network, like a group of friends or family members that know what you've been through and know you have a dissociative disorder, that you let them know. And especially, like, okay, now I suppose in retrospect I could have said, hey, this is what could happen to me, to a close friend or somebody, and just say, you know, if you see me starting to sort of check out, or if I start to act a little strange, or would you just check in with me every now and then and say, hey, are you okay? Because I do want to still be able to enjoy those experiences, you know, to go to social events and be around people and talk and flirt and have a good time. And this feels incredibly vulnerable today. I'm not, yeah, I feel like I'm really bearing some dark secrets right now, but my intention is that I want others who have these experiences as well to know that you're not alone, and that I have found ways to heal myself such that, you know, there's like an integration of these disparate parts of my consciousness. And it's just more so all the time. And somebody asked me once, well, if you were diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, like how do you heal that? And I said, you know, I don't think I set out necessarily focusing on that, but I just focused on healing. And I very much am an introspective person, and so when I go inside and I examine how I'm feeling, and as stuff comes up, I just work in whatever way I'm guided to heal that particular thing, right, when it comes up. And so, and actually the last I'd say the last 5 days have been extremely intense for healing. And part of it I know is that I've come here and started telling my story, and that triggered programming from my abusers that I was never ever to tell about it. And so there was some layers of programming there about, that they'll do me harm, that no one will believe me. And the most recent one had something to do with me being disloyal. And that one surprised me, actually, because I have talked about this in the past, but it's been a while and under different circumstances where I was being interviewed and I knew it was going to be just a one and done. And so now I'm actually sitting here pretty much telling anything and everything, I guess. And it feels incredibly, I feel exposed. The first 3 videos I did sharing my story, there were a lot of tears, a lot of fear, and again, a lot of that old programming coming out that my very wonderful friend Brian, he pointed out that perhaps the reason I was having a really difficult time emotionally was because now I'm actually telling the story that I was told to never tell. Never, 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 under penalty of everything you could imagine and some things you can't. And so, unless you've grown up in the same type of scenario. So that really helped me a lot to understand that, I'm like, wow, I was doing great. And now I'm just like, going through all these intense, painful emotions. And so I actually wept with relief when he told me that, because I'm like, oh my God, of course, like that makes so much sense. And then this week I had the realization that the next layer of their programming designed to ensure that none of us would ever speak about this had come up. And so I just allowed myself to be with it, and then it was okay, I mean, it's still uncomfortable as hell, but I'm committed that nobody else has to go through this alone, not knowing what's going on and not knowing if they'll make it through it. And I was blessed early on that a therapist of mine said, hey, I know of this woman doctor who has been through the same thing as you, and she said she would talk to you if you want it. And I said, all I need to know is that she's alive and she's happy and she has a good life. And she said, yes, she's married, has kids, she's a doctor, she's happy. And I said, okay, that's all I, don't need to talk to her. Now I kind of wish that I could, but it was like a beacon of light for me out in front, going, somebody else went through the same thing and she's got a good life. And that gave me the strength to just know to keep going, even on the days that it felt like it was hopeless. But so that's why I'm doing this. After the last video that I recorded, and I don't think I posted it for several days, well, maybe 5 days after I actually created it. And it was because what I felt was like, oh my God, this just sounds like a bunch of narcissistic dribble, like, I'm like, how boring. Who wants to hear this? Like, this is just me sitting here talking about my life. And then, God bless my friend Charlotte. She said to me, she goes, she's in my mastermind group, and she said, Rebecca, remember when you said that one article like really helped you, and it helped you on your journey and helped you to have compassion for yourself and to understand what you were going through? And she said, that's what your story is going to do for other people. So here's to you, Charlotte. And here's to each and every one of you. Know that I am just beaming you so much love, and there's so many divine beings that are beaming you so much love. Whether you believe that part or not, that's okay. You don't have to, but when I go into my theta brainwave and do my healing sessions, and those are on this channel too, by the way, if you didn't know, and I'm going to continue to post some more just freebie healing sessions. But when I go in there, I go into a theta brainwave, and I can channel from that place. I can see and hear things that are on a higher realm, and so that's my belief. I see them, I feel them, and I truly believe that those of us who took on and have endured incredibly, extremely difficult lives, that we have an extra measure of divine support. So here's to them. This one's a little longer than I had intended, but nerves sometimes make me ramble. And I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you being here and being on this planet and have gone through all that you've gone through and still be chugging along. So keep on going. I love you. Talk to you next time.